Welcome to the Bo Benson Show. If you like conspiracy theories, you like what's going on in the government, you like to learn about secret societies, you like to learn about Jehovah Witnesses, this is the perfect channel for you. Please subscribe and make a comment. Welcome to the Bo Benson Show. This is part 5. This is Watchtower's secret letter. This is part 2 of part 5. This part will be discussing Watchtower's secret letter. They're sent to the elders. They're about hiding criminal activity from the general public. Alright, so you guys are going to be seeing a secret letter that was sent out to the elders, which is the leaders of the organization known as Jehovah's Witnesses, who are part of the group known as Watchtower. These letters are coming and are directed directly from what they refer to as the governing body, which is the leadership of the organization of Watchtower. So every elder in the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses, the priests of the organization, are given these orders to hold, withstand, and keep police from getting important information about criminal activities. You'll see all this information given.
Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York, Incorporated. Cable Watchtower. 25 Columbia Heights, Brooklyn, New York 11201. Userphone 625-3600. July 1, 1989. To all bodies of elders in the United States. Confidential. Dear brothers, we are writing to help all of you as individual elders be aware of a growing concern regarding the handling of your duties that may involve legal issues or questions. Due to its importance, the presiding overseer should arrange for a special meeting of the body of elders to read and consider this letter carefully. In spreading the kingdom message, it is appropriate that we be bold and outspoken. Jesus commanded that what you hear whispered, preach from the housetops. Even when worldly authorities demand that we keep silent, we reply as did the apostles, we cannot stop speaking about the things we have seen and heard. The Christian congregation will continue to declare the kingdom message boldly until Jehovah says the work is done. Elders share the obligation to shepherd the flock. However, they must be careful not to divulge information about personal matters to unauthorized persons. There is a time to keep quiet when your words should prove to be few. Proverbs 10:19 warns, in the abundance of words there does not fail to be transgression, but the one keeping his lips in check is acting discreetly. Problems are created when elders unwisely reveal matters that should be kept confidential. Elders must give special heed to the counsel, do not reveal the confidential talk of another. Proverbs 25:91 Often the peace, unity, and spiritual well-being of the congregation are at stake. Improper use of the tongue by an elder can result in serious legal problems for the individual, the congregation, and even the society.
So the first part of this letter is talking about the circuit overseers, which is a high-ranking person in the organization who's over the elder. So think of it as a high-ranking elder who's in charge of more than one kingdom hall. Now, when they're telling them that they need to be silent, what they're doing is they're saying that if there is a criminal activity done by any member of the organization, and that criminal activity will make the society, which is Watchtower, look bad, they're to keep it silent. So if a crime takes place like CSA, you're not to report it to the police. You're to keep it quiet so that it doesn't make the church look bad. And when they're giving these verses, they're trying to convince the elders, or they are convincing the elders, that these verses are saying that Jesus said that the status of the church is more important than the criminal activity. So if members commit crimes, Jesus is telling them, don't report crimes. Now, I know that's absurd, and most Christians would be horrified to hear this, but this is the belief system that the Jehovah Witnesses have.
While we as Christians are ready to forgive others who may wrong us, those in the world are not so inclined. Worldly persons are quick to resort to lawsuits if they feel their rights have been violated. Some who oppose the kingdom preaching work readily take advantage of any legal provisions to interfere with it or impede its progress. Thus, elders must especially guard the use of the tongue. Jesus faced opposers who tried to catch him in speech, so as to turn him over to the government. He instructed us to be cautious as serpents and yet innocent as doves in such situations. Matthew 10:161. Where such a threat exists, our position as elders should be in line with David's words, "I will set a muzzle as a guard to my own mouth, as long as anyone wicked is in front of me."
So what this is saying is, by default, if a victim speaks out and is told not to speak, they're now considered an enemy of the church, and therefore, their practices of shunning. They also have a practice of going around and saying things about the person. Like, for an example, if it's a teenager who's been abused, like myself, they did this to me. They will go have the members, the kids, and the parents tell the community and people in the community, the church, that that person is on drugs or that they're involved in sexual relations. They're not. They'll do anything they can to make it so that people don't believe them. And so when the police come to, investigate these charges, they're going to hear all these different church members and people just saying that this person is a delinquent and a liar. And they do this to defame the person, to remove their integrity, to humiliate them, and to show them that they have control over them. So they're going to lie to the police about you to make you look like you're a bad, I want to say informant, but that's not really the correct terminology. I can't think of the correct term right now, but basically so that they want to defame you so that no one believes you. So as soon as you say anything about the society or the organization and they've told you not to do it, you're framed automatically an enemy, and they're going to do something referred to as spiritual warfare. And in spiritual warfare, they're allowed to defame you, say anything negative about you that's not true, as long as it makes the church beneficial. So as long as it's beneficial to the church, they're allowed to lie to law enforcement, lie to your family members, lie to your spouse. It doesn't matter. And then when they're talking about the elders being careful, and they're saying that people want to use lawsuits against them, they're talking about the CSA situation. So Jehovah Witnesses don't believe that another Jehovah Witness is allowed to sue another Jehovah Witness. So if you sue another Jehovah Witness, because you're not allowed to do that, that's a violation of the church rules. And so you will be punished for that.
39:1. To all bodies of elders, July 1, 1989, page 2. In recent years, this matter has come to be a cause for increasing concern. The spirit of the world has sensitized people regarding their legal rights and the legal means by which they can exact punishment if such rights are violated. Hence, a growing number of vindictive or disgruntled ones, as well as opposers, have initiated lawsuits to inflict financial penalties on the individual, the congregation, or the society. Many of these lawsuits are the result of the misuse of the tongue. As elders, remember that ill-advised statements or actions on your part can sometimes be interpreted legally as violating others' rights.
So this is pretty simple. Basically what they're saying is elders are not to say anything to law enforcement or anyone about your right to sue. Or if someone is molested and the police come and say, hey, this 6-year-old girl was molested by one of the members of your church, we want to know about it. Who knows about this? They're not allowed to say anything. They're not to say anything to the police or anyone else, family members, anything, because if that is said to the police, that can be brought into court, and then the organization hiding the child molester can be held responsible depending on the state laws. And that's what they're telling the elders. You don't tell anyone about child molesters. You keep your mouth shut, because if you don't and they find out we knew, then these people that they're talking about, these delinquents, are going to sue us. So Jehovah Witnesses don't think that people who are abused and are sexually assaulted have rights. They believe that this is just something that they should deal with, and that this isn't really a big deal, and it's just kind of a sin, because Jehovah Witnesses teach that, especially with girls, that if you get raped, it's your fault. This is something that they say. This is something that my parents believe. This is something that almost every Jehovah Witness that I know of, that is my parents' age and generation, believe. They think because you wear clothes that's provocative, that you're enticing the rapist to rape you, and therefore it's your fault. This is actually a belief system that the organization has, and this is one of the reasons why they think this way, talk this way, and behave this way. They believe that if you get raped, that you're the one that's wanting it. This is their actual belief system.
The need for elders to maintain strict confidentiality has been repeatedly stressed. Please see the Watchtower of April 1, 1971, pages 222-4, and September 1, 1987, pages 12-15. The September 1977 Our Kingdom Service, page 6, paragraph 36, and the KS-21 textbook, page 65, also provide helpful direction and counsel. That material strongly emphasized the elders' responsibility to avoid revealing confidential information to those not entitled to it. The legal consequences of a breach of confidentiality by the elders can be substantial. If the elders fail to follow the society's direction carefully in handling confidential matters, such mistakes could result in successful litigation by those offended. Substantial monetary damages could be assessed against the elders or congregation. In some cases where the authorities are involved, certain complications could lead to a fine or imprisonment. These possibilities underscore the need for elders to be discerning and to follow carefully directions provided by the society.
You see how they talk about confidential and they talk about entitled? So they're saying that this information is confidential because it belongs to Watchtower, and that police are not entitled to know that an elder has molested kid A, B, and C, which these are actual things that have taken place on multiple cases. So if you go to Australia Royal Commission, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So the elders, for an example, they send letters of recommendation about people, and they have sent letters of recommendation, and this has been documented, that known sex offenders wanted to work with children, and they'll even say that these people want to work with children and they work good with children, knowing they had raped. And I believe the person that we're talking about, the case, they had raped 5 people, and of the 5 kids they molested, I think 3 of them were their own grandkids. So this kind of behavior will lead to a lawsuit and also imprisonment. And that's what the statement is saying, that if you're an elder and you give this information away, it will hurt the society and it will hurt their leadership. So the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses was found in Australia to have a database of pedophiles. Now, the database is here in the U.S., and the U.S. has 1/3, I believe, or 1/4 of the database. And in that database, there was something like 20,000 unregistered sex offenders, which means that these people admitted to these crimes and are documented doing these crimes and were not given to the police. So this is a case that is still ongoing here in the U.S. And as of today, which is 2024 or 2023, law enforcement has never been given that. It's actually locked up in the court system. So the organization, the reason why they're so worried about this is because so many high-ranking members in their communities are sex offenders, that this is actually completely devastating. So for an example, if the full database gets to law enforcement and law enforcement was to actually do something about this, that a huge percentile of the leadership of the organization would be arrested. And that's why this is so important to them, that we don't say anything, we don't do anything, and we keep it quiet. It's because their leadership have been involved in pedophilia. We're aware of, I believe it's 4 members of the governing body that have existed, are actually known sex offenders. And when I'm saying that, I'm not talking about governing body members that are there right now. I'm talking about ones that have already died, and that we are aware that they were actual child molesters. So the organization's child molestation issue goes all the way up to the governing body leadership roles. So you can be a child molester and still hold a position of authority in this church organization.
What to do in specific cases. Judicial committee matters. Judicial committees must follow carefully the Society's instructions in carrying out their duties. Anything submitted in writing to the committee by the alleged wrongdoer or by witnesses should be kept in strict confidence. If it is necessary to continue at a later time a committee hearing, the members of the committee should submit to the chairman any personal notes they have taken. The chairman will keep these notes in a secure place to prevent breaches of confidentiality. The notes may be returned to the individual elders when the hearing resumes. Upon conclusion of the case, the chairman should place only necessary notes and documents, a summary of the case, and the S-77 forms in a sealed envelope for the congregation file. Nothing should be preserved outside of this sealed envelope by any elder on the committee. Obviously, no committee will ever allow judicial proceedings to be tape-recorded or allow witnesses testifying before the committee to take notes. To all bodies of elders, July 1, 1989, page 3. B. Child abuse. Many states have child abuse reporting laws. When elders receive reports of physical or sexual abuse of a child, they should contact the Society's legal department immediately. Victims of such abuse need to be protected from further danger. See if the worst should happen. Awake. January 22, 1985.
So what this is saying, that if you hear about a child molestation, you're not to report the child molestation to the authorities. You're to go to the headquarters. And when they're talking about these forms that you're filling out, what they do is they have this committee that sits around and they write down all the things that you say. So if you confess to it, and then they give a summary into that, they put it into a blue envelope. The blue envelope stays at the congregation in a special file they lock away. And then they send a copy of that to the headquarters of Jehovah Witnesses, where they put it into a mainframe. So that mainframe is separate from any server, so there's no access to it. So you can only put into it, you can't take out of it. And the reason for that is someone actually downloaded it and then gave it to the authorities. And so that now was altered. And the reason I know that is because one of the people that worked on it talked about it, and one of the ex-Bethelites that was involved in that process was, during that process, is somebody that I had known. So there you go. So that's why they're doing that. And then when you talk about how they need to protect the victim, now when you look at it right there, most people are thinking, oh, they're talking about saving them from the abuse. No, they're saying they need to protect the victim from being exposed to the police. That's what they actually are trying to tell you here. This is what they're saying to the members. This sounds different to normal people, but this is actually witness terminology in talk and Redlick. They're actually saying that they're worried about the victim being exposed to the outside world, and then finding out that, the child molestation issues that are going on there, aren't just a one-time thing, that they're all over the place at the organization, and then they will fall out of, line with the organization and leave. That's what this is talking about. When they're talking about protecting the child, they're protecting them from finding out that this hasn't not happened before, that this isn't unique. That's what they mean by this. And I want to make sure I explain this, because when you look and you hear this, it sounds like they're talking about protecting the victim. They're not talking about protecting the victim. They're talking about protecting the victim from realizing what the organization is and falling out of favor with the organization. It's really important that you know that.
Page 8. C. Search warrants and subpoenas. 1. A search warrant is a court order authorizing the police to search premises to locate evidence that may be used in a criminal prosecution. No elder should ever consent to the search of a kingdom hall or any other place where confidential records are stored. However, armed with a search warrant, the police do not need consent and may even use force to accomplish their task. Likely before obtaining a search warrant, the police or other governmental officials will make inquiries regarding confidential records, make requests to obtain the records, or indicate that they will seek a search warrant if the elder involved does not cooperate. In any such situation, the Society's legal department should be called immediately. At any time an elder is confronted with a search warrant, the elder should first ask to read the warrant. After reading it, he should ask if he can call for legal guidance and then call the society's legal department. If for some reason the legal department cannot be contacted, the elders involved should make every effort to obtain the assistance of a local attorney for the purpose of protecting the confidentiality of the records. It may be impossible to stop determiner officers from conducting the search authorized by the warrant. Conscientious elders will want to do all they reasonably peaceably can to preserve the confidentiality of the congregation in harmony with the principle set out in Acts 5:29.
So as plainly read here, you can see they're going to go out of their way and they are not allowed to help law enforcement. So if a crime has taken place and they have a record of the crime, they're to do everything they can to keep that record safe. That's what the goal is, to keep it safe. So imagine you're in a situation where a child is molested. The kids come to the Kingdom Hall, and that's where he gets molested at. The police come to the Kingdom Hall, and then they want to, investigate the crime. They're going to refuse to give any information about the crime to the police, and then they're going to contact the headquarters legal department and then ask for advice. And if they can't get hold of them, they're to basically stall for as long as possible until they can get a lawyer there and try to fight the search warrant. Now think about this. Now this is a church, right? Why would a church, if they have nothing to hide or doing nothing wrong, why would they care? Why would they care if they go through records if you're looking for a child molester? You'd think they would want to help them. So this is proof that the organization hides child molesters. This is proof that the organization keeps records of it and that they tell the elders to hide it. So if you are married to an elder, or if you have dating an elder or anything of that nature, this is the kind of person that you're associating with. And you should be very careful whenever you do with elders, because elders will be kind to your face, act nice, and you don't know what they really are doing behind closed doors or what kind of person they really are. So we had some documentation, and on that documentation we did some data on it, and it was something like 23 to 30% of elders are sex offenders based on their own records. Now those records are based on some of those court cases we received before, and that may or may not be accurate to today's date, but based off when we did acquire that information, it was some kind of enormous amount of leaders in the organization, elders, are actual sex offenders. And just so we understand, when I'm saying that, they either are involved in crimes, physically touching children, having sex with children, or hiding people who are doing it, in those three categories.
2. Subpoenas are demands for records or for the of an individual at a trial or deposition to give testimony. Subpoenas may be issued by a court, or in some cases by a governmental agency or an attorney. If an elder receives a subpoena, he should contact the society's legal department. Never turn over records, notes, documents, or reveal any confidential matter sought by subpoena without receiving direction from the legal department. D. Crimes and criminal investigations. In some cases, the elders will form judicial committees to handle alleged wrongdoing that also could constitute a violation of Caesar's criminal laws. Generally, a secular investigation into a matter that is a concern to the congregation should not delay conducting a judicial hearing. To avoid entanglement with the secular authorities who may be investigating the same matter, the strictest confidentiality must be maintained.
So as you can see, Part D is saying even a criminal activity, so murder, theft, child abuse, they will still follow these same practices in order to keep their member from being investigated or to keep evidence from law enforcement. And when they talk about Caesar, in the Bible it says that you're supposed to respect Caesar's laws. Like, this is something the Bible says, respect the laws of the land. Jehovah's Witnesses do not respect the laws of the land. And this is why they're making this reference, because that's what the Bible says, and that's what a lot of people and elders would think, that that's what you're supposed to do. But they're being told here that we don't respect the laws of the land that the Bible says to do, that we follow what Watchtower is saying to do, because Watchtower overrides the Bible. They're making sure that the elders are perfectly aware that yes, the Bible says do this, but we're telling you to do something else. And that means Jehovah is directly telling you to do that. So the Bible is old news, we're new news. That's why the organization calls itself New Light.
All Bodies of Elders, July 1st, 1989, page 4. If the alleged wrongdoer confesses to the sin, no one else should be present besides the members of the committee. When evidence supports the accusation but genuine repentance is not displayed resulting in a decision to disfellowship, this should be handled in the normal course regarding advice of appeal rights and announcements to the congregation. In cases of serious criminal wrongdoing, or where the criminal conduct is widely known in the community, the body of elders should contact the society before proceeding with the judicial committee process. When servants and publishers move. A considerable number of publishers, including elders and ministerial servants, move from one congregation to another. Sometimes the circumstances surrounding their departure are unsettled. Some appointed brothers may be experiencing problems that have brought their qualifications into question. It is not uncommon for a body of elders to hold back in giving counsel, allowing a brother to move without discussing his problem. Thereafter, they decline to recommend his reappointment in his new congregation. Often such a brother protests, requiring extensive correspondence between the bodies of elders. Much personal, and sometimes embarrassing, information must then be passed on. Such mishandling of things greatly increases the potential for serious repercussions. Problems can be avoided by the body of elders assuming its responsibility to inform a brother that he will not be favorably recommended, fully explaining the reasons why. Every effort should be made to resolve any difference before he leaves, eliminating any need for controversy involving his new congregation. The body should assign 2 elders to meet with him before he moves, letting him know whether they are recommending him to the new congregation. This would likewise apply to publishers who move at a time when their personal conduct requires investigation by the elders. If serious accusations of wrongdoing have been made against an individual and he moves to another congregation before matters are finalized, usually it is best for the elders in the original congregation to follow through in handling matters, if possible and if distance permits. They are acquainted with the individual and the circumstances surrounding the alleged wrongdoing. This ordinarily puts them in the best position to get the facts and to handle the case. Handling matters in this way will eliminate the need to reveal confidential information unnecessarily about the private lives of individuals.
So once again, this is just talking about the procedure. So if somebody is in the congregation, does something wrong, they go to a new congregation. So let's say the person was a child molester, and then rather than dealing with the judicial committee, they move away. They're going to write down all the information they have. Those elders are going to follow them wherever they go, and they're going to continue to have this little committee there where they're going to tell them what their punishment is. So just so people understand, Jehovah's Witnesses, typically if a elder or somebody in the congregation molests a child, what will happen if people know about it, that person will take their privileges away. And what that means is when they go to the church, people won't talk to them and they're not allowed to use the microphone. They believe that that is accurate punishment for a child abuse, that you can't use a microphone when you're at church to answer questions. I'm not kidding you. I actually had my own family members tell me that society took care of the child molest situation that happened to me, and by them losing their rights to use their microphone, it made it okay. This is this ideology that these people have. It's very mundane, it's very stupid, but this is actually their thought process, because in their mind, the whole world doesn't matter, and that the only thing that matters is this little group of people at this little kingdom hall and this little microphone, that the whole world revolves around this microphone. Now, that seems stupid to me and you, but this is how they believe.
F. When lawsuits are threatened. If the congregation or the elders are threatened with a lawsuit, the society's legal department should be contacted immediately. No statements should be made by any member of the body of elders about the merits or validity of an actual or threatened lawsuit without authorization from the society. To all bodies of elders. July 1, 1989, page 5. G. Child custody. Elders may learn that a publisher is facing a dispute over child custody in a divorce proceeding. If the parental rights of such is challenged on the basis of our Christian beliefs, or on the assertion that our beliefs are harmful to a child's best interests, the elders should immediately write to the society's legal department. In a rare emergency, a telephone call may be necessary. The legal department will assess the facts and determine the degree of its involvement, if any. Elders have no authority to make any promises about the society's paying legal fees or handling specific cases. There is no need to contact the society if there is no indication that the beliefs and practices of Jehovah's Witnesses will be attacked in a child custody dispute.
So what this is saying is that if two Jehovah's Witnesses get divorced for whatever reason, they're not going to be involved in it unless one of the spouses doesn't believe in the organization. So let's say you got a married couple and they find out that the husband has been molesting the children, which is a common problem in the organization. It would say the mother decides that after dealing with the Jehovah's Witnesses that she doesn't believe this religion is safe anymore. What will happen is they will write to the society, and because they don't believe, or the mother doesn't believe that the society is safe because of their policies about child molestation and hiding and all these other things, they will send legal representation for the child molester. Because if the child molester believes in the organization stands behind them. And obviously this is the case because this case that we're reviewing right now is exactly the same scenario. So the kids don't believe in Jehovah's Witnesses' belief system anymore. Abel doesn't believe. And the parents who are known sex offenders, who are abusive and are child molesters, are now being represented by Watchtower. So anytime someone is a member of the organization and there's someone saying the organization is dangerous, no matter what that person is, murderer, child molester, crook, whatever it is, the society takes their side. Because if that other team is saying, no, the witnesses' belief system, they're a cult, they're dangerous, and that's in the court system, they immediately feel like they have to go fight that. No matter if it's in the child's best interest or not. Obviously, with this case that we're seeing before us, that's what this is.
When you write to the Society's legal department about a specific case, please provide the following information. 1. The names of the parents and their attorneys. 2. The number of children involved and their ages. 3. A brief description of the facts, including the presence of any apostates. 4. An assessment of the Christian parent's spiritual condition. Is he or she new in the truth? Active? Inactive? Balanced? 5. The status of the legal proceedings. Has the matter gone to trial? Has the trial date been set? If so, when? Points to remember. Appreciate the importance of maintaining confidentiality. Elders must exercise extraordinary caution when it comes to handling confidential information about the private lives of others. Do not mistakenly minimize the gravity of a breach of confidentiality. Unauthorized disclosure of confidential information can result in costly lawsuits. Even if a lawsuit turns out favorably, valuable time and energy that could have been devoted to kingdom interests will be lost. B. Do not make statements to secular authorities until you receive legal advice from the society. You are not legally required to make immediate responses to secular authorities about matters that could involve the disclosure of confidential information. Voluntarily allowing the Kingdom Hall or confidential records to be searched, where no search warrant is produced, could infringe on the legal rights of the congregation or of others. No statement should be made until you have an understanding of your legal position from the Society's legal department. To all bodies of elders, July 1, 1989, page 6. C. Be extremely careful with written material. All material related to judicial matters should be kept in a safe place, accessible only to elders. Final reports on the handling of judicial matters should be placed in a sealed envelope in the congregation file. A judicial committee should avoid sending to an individual any kind of correspondence that accuses him of specific wrongdoing. Pages 68-9. Nothing should be put in writing to any disfellowshipped person to advise him of his status or the reasons for it without specific direction from the society. The rules and procedures of Jehovah's Witnesses do not require such written disclosures. Anything in writing submitted to a judicial committee should be kept in strict confidence. If a judicial committee disfellowships an individual, he should be informed orally of the action taken and of the right to appeal. If the wrongdoer refuses to attend the hearing, 2 members of the judicial committee should attempt to contact the individual at his home and inform him orally of the decision. If this is not possible, the 2 elders may be able to inform him by telephone. D. Guard the use of your tongue. Think before you speak. Do not discuss private and judicial matters with members of your family, including your wives, or with other members of the congregation. Be extremely careful not to inadvertently disclose private information when others are present, such as when speaking on the telephone with others listening in or nearby. Page 65. At times, complicated judicial cases may necessitate consultation with an experienced, mature elder in another congregation or with the circuit overseer. Unless the circuit overseer is the elder consulted, only the pertinent details should be discussed and names should not be used. Elders bear a heavy responsibility in ministering to the needs of the Christian congregation, and observing confidentiality as they do so. We trust that the information in this letter will help you carry this burden. Please be assured of our love and prayers, and may Jehovah continue to bless you as you shepherd his flock. L. Peter 5, 1-3. Your brothers. TF #T A7LJ1 2 WWFL VF C1L of New York, Inc. T. Ps. Due to the importance of the information that is presented herein, it is suggested that the body of elders jointly read and consider this letter as soon as possible after its receipt in the congregation. Please do not make any copies of this letter, nor should it be read by others. It should be kept in the congregation's confidential files for any future reference that may be required by the body of elders.
So in my opinion, the society goes to unusual and great lengths in order to protect pedophiles. In California, you'll see there are a lot of cases where pedophiles get off pretty easy who have members of Jehovah's Witnesses. I think this is really strange. The case that we're dealing with is one of those. I'm not really sure what the correlation with California pedophilia and Jehovah's Witnesses actually is, but it does seem to be a common thread. Now, if this is a thought experiment I would like you guys to do, if you don't mind, if you're curious about this or you're representing somebody, just look up Jehovah's Witnesses and pedophilia. The list is extraordinarily long. Matter of fact, you want to make it even simpler, just look up Jehovah's Witnesses pedophilia in your area. I guarantee you'll find something. Now, think about this. How is it that this small group of less than 1 million people has so many sex offenders in it? Is that a coincidence? Is that design? That's up for you to make that decision. I personally believe that this is by design. You may not agree with me. You may think that this is just some kind of defect because they're a high control group. That's perfectly fine. But the problem is no matter what it is or what you believe the situation is they do have an enormous amount of sex offenders in this group. And we don't know why.
Now I want you to answer me this. Did you know that the third lieutenant that was running Jeffrey Epstein's operation was a Jehovah's Witness? Do you think that's a coincidence? Because I don't.